Hello and welcome to another Sprues and Brews video. Today we're looking at Fire Jade, the Spearhead supplement out of the new Age of Sigmar Skaventide box. So first of all, I want to say a massive thanks to Games Workshop for sending us a copy of Skaventide to check out. Over the last few days on both here on YouTube and on the website, we have done all sorts of coverage on Skaventide. We've done a full unboxing and write-up on the site and a full kind of video in-depth look at the core rules, and again there's a companion article to that on the site too. We've also popped up our first 4th edition battle report as well, so lots of goodies on the site already. Today however we can talk about Spearhead, which is the new game mode introduced in the 4th edition of Age of Sigmar. Now going into this, back when it was announced I was a little bit dubious. Obviously we've got the Combat Patrol game mode in 40k, and to me personally that seems more like here's a way of getting people into the game easily with simplified rules, and then from there they can kind of build on to proper full fat 40k. For Spearhead though, things seem a little bit different, which is brilliant. Yes, it's still a way of getting into Age of Sigmar by using just the contents of a Spearhead box, but this has got so much kind of tactical depth and fun, and it is just really ace. So what we're going to do is go through the book, learn how Spearhead games work. We'll have a look at the cards as well, see what kind of stuff is on them, and then we'll also look through all 25 Spearheads to see kind of what they do in game, what kind of mechanics they've got. At the time of recording this, you won't have seen the faction packs. You can infer a lot from these that are in the full faction packs. There's a lot of kind of shared DNA, and a lot of mechanics are the same. A lot of the faction packs have been tweaked a little bit from their Age of Sigmar incarnations, just for balance, because obviously it's on a small board and there's small forces, but there is a lot of shared DNA there, so yeah, you'll get a bit of an idea of how the factions work in match play Age of Sigmar 2. But yeah, without further ado, let's crack this open and have a look at what is inside. So this 140 something page book is included as part of the Skaventide box, which is £160, and in that box you get 2 Spearhead forces too, plus all the terrain that you need and the boards and the cards. So if you are looking to just play Spearhead, Skaventide is absolutely perfect, with the bonus that you also get the full core book and the General's Handbook cards as well, so you can play match play, Path to Glory, whatever mode you want to play. But yeah, this is something pretty special. Now it uses a lot of the core, well, all of the core mechanics, the core rules from Age of Sigmar. It doesn't use any of the advanced rules. It has its own things that handle with that. So army construction is really easy. You pick a Spearhead, that is your army. There's no list building as such. You don't pay points for models. You just have the contents of that Spearhead, and all 25 of those Spearheads are listed within this book. All of the currently available ones, except for the Beasts of Chaos, which are getting discontinued from Age of Sigmar. You also get the rules for the 2 Spearheads in the box, and you also get a Spearhead for Sons of Bahamut players with 3 Man-Crusher Gargants, so that's pretty cool. Lots of options there. A lot of players will have those already, and again if you get into it, I think they're £87.50 for a Spearhead from Games Workshop as well. Obviously you can get them cheaper from places like Element, I think £75 from Element, so we do have an affiliate link in the description as well if you do want to help out the site and pick up your Spearhead box from there. But essentially you pick your Spearhead. Each Spearhead has got a couple of different kind of optional rules that you can pick from, and they basically change the way the army plays a little bit. Some of them will be passive effects that happen all the time, others will be once per game powerful abilities that you can pick from, 2 of them per army, and then you get 4 upgrades that you can give to your general as well. And in a similar way, some of them will be passive that are on all the time, some of them are once per game, that you can tinker based on your playstyle. So there is a little bit of construction in there, but the core models are the same. In the box there's also a double-sided Spearhead board, one side representing the realm of fire, one side representing the realm of life. Both of the boards have got pre-illustrated objective markers on them, and they are in different positions on each side of the board. That is important because depending on your playstyle you might favour one rather than the other. So for example, this one here, if you split the board that way, you could sit stuff right on the back of objectives if you want to have a more defensive play style, where this one, maybe if you're going diagonally, you could start a little bit closer and be a bit more aggressive. So again, that's a key thing, kind of playing a few games and seeing which board you like, because as part of the setup process, you get to pick those. Now, there's quite a few things in here that aren't in normal Age of Sigmar, one of which is the twist deck. So depending on which realm that you pick to play on, either the realm of fire or the realm of life, and I suspect we'll probably see more realms in the future as this expands, there are 2 different twist decks. And essentially what these do is offer a twist. They'll normally alter the battle round in some way. They will also normally give some kind of bonus to the underdog as well. So the underdog is the player that has got the least victory points, and a lot of these have a kind of catch-up mechanic which makes it a little bit easier for them. There's 2 different twist decks in the box, one for each realm. All the twists on them are different across both decks as well, so again, based on what realm you want to play on, after you've played a few games you'll kind of pick up what twists exist and stuff. Now the other deck that we have, each player has a battle tactic deck. These are split in half, with the top half having a battle tactic that you're trying to achieve, and if you look at them, they are kind of very similar to the battle tactics in the main game. Some of them revolve around getting a specific objective. All the objectives on the battlefield are marked with the kind of symbol of a god beast. Other ones they're very similar to battle tactics that we've played in the past. So on your turn you draw 3 cards and you can then use these cards to score additional victory points. But if you look at the bottom, each card also has a command on it as well. And this is where the kind of the big twist is in Spearhead. There's no command points in the game. The only way you can use commands is by spending one of these cards. If you do use one of these cards to use the command though, you can't score the battle tactic, you discard the card. So you've got a bit of a balancing act between trying to score, you know, as many points as you can using these cards, but then also kind of you've got quite a lot of utility and clever things that you can do with the commands that could maybe deny your opponent from getting points. There are 12 cards in the deck, so a good player, the game lasts 4 turns, could in theory score every single one of them. But again, you've both got the same deck, so you know what your opponent's scored and you know what they've got left. So a smart player might be able to, you know, maybe sacrifice one of their cards by using the command in order to maybe stop them from getting a fairly decent score. And that's where the real kind of like strategy and stuff comes in on this. It's certainly not kind of diluted Age of Sigmar. In our games, they've been really kind of fast-paced and fun and engaging. You know, there's a lot of kind of trying to work out what your opponent's trying to do, trying to work out what cards they've got and try and stop them as much as you're trying to score yours too. Now, scoring wise, it works in a similar way. You get 1 victory point if you've got 1 objective, 1 victory point if you've got 2 objectives, and 1 victory point if you've got more objectives than your opponents. And then you score an additional victory point for each battle tactic card that you can complete on your turn. So normally that's a maximum of 6 victory points you can get each turn, though some of the twists affect that and make certain objectives on the board worth more points, for example. But that's really what you aim for, 6 each turn. There's only 4 battle rounds, so you're going to be rattling through them pretty quick. In our practice games, they've lasted between 45 minutes and an hour as well, so it is a really fast-paced game of Age of Sigmar. So we'll talk through kind of how the game sets up and how it plays. You both roll off to determine who's the attacker and who's the defender. There are pros and cons to both of those. The attacker gets to get the first turn, which is, you know, a massive advantage, but they set up their army first. The defender gets to pick which realm we're fighting on, so which side of the board, and equally which twist deck they're using. And they also get to pick what kind of deployment map they use as well. So you can either split the map straight down the middle or have it diagonally as well. And again, there's pros and cons for them, and they will favour different armies. Now what's cool as well, your kind of enhancements, your regiment abilities, you pick them after you've seen what your opponent's bringing. So, you know, maybe you're ogre player and you're facing against Sylvaneth, you might change which enhancements you're using based on the knowledge of the opponent that you're facing, so that's pretty good. You've got a bit of flexibility there to swap it up. Both players also get given at the start of the game a large terrain piece and a small terrain piece. They take turns placing them fully within their territory, but they can't sit in an objective. Now, they do, work as cover and can block movement and stuff, but there's also battle tactics that revolve around trying to get those as well. So there's a bit of play in there of, do you put it somewhere so that you can get it, for a battle tactic is coming down the turn, or do you maybe place yours in a position where it's going to make it difficult for the opponent to get to it, while also thinking about cover and movement. You could maybe, if you're facing up against something big like a tree lord, you could maybe put them in such a way that's going to kind of make it difficult for him to get across the battlefield. It's only on a Warcry board, which I think off the top of my head is 22 by 30 inches, so quite a small kind of surface you're playing on. And even though there's only going to be 4 terrain pieces, you can kind of dictate the flow based on where you put those. So yeah, the person who is the attacker gets the first turn in the first battle round. You then draw one of the twist cards, which again, they normally favour the underdog. In the first turn there's not going to be an underdog, but there's normally something else at play that happens. If there's not an underdog, it'll tell you on there what you do if that's the case. And then each player draws their 3 battle tactic cards at the start of the battle round, and you go off, you try and score those. It's quite quick back and forth. Now the big twist is that if you win the priority roll, and priority is still a thing in Spearhead, each turn you'll roll off to see who goes first. If you opt to take the double turn, so maybe you went last in the first battle round and you want to go first in the second battle round, you're not allowed to draw any battle tactic cards. So just like for Fat Age of Sigmar, there is a downside to taking that double turn. Now there's a lot of positives, you can get into an advantageous position, you can maybe do a lot of damage to your opponent, but you are going to be limited in not being able to draw many battle tactic cards. If you maybe struggle to score some in the previous turn, that's not so bad, because you've still got the ones that you've got and you can still try and score them. But obviously good players will be trying to score as much as they can each turn, so making that decision, and if you do kind of forsake those cards in order to make a bit of a push, is a really kind of big point. So, and that makes the game really, really fun and fast paced. And that's essentially the rules there. It uses the core Age of Sigmar rules, so movement, fighting, shooting, all that still exists. But the battle plan is what drives kind of the Spearhead rules. Really, really good fun. Now in this book, you also get the rules for all of the Spearheads as well. And these give you a bit of an insight into how the kind of games, the armies are going to operate in full Age of Sigmar as well. They've tried to keep the flavour and the identity of each of these factions, which is really, really good. Obviously some things are a little bit different, and you've only got the handful of units that you've got in the Spearhead, but it does give you a good flavour, and I think that is where the Spearhead is going to be really good. If you are interested in picking up a faction, then you can try it out with a Spearhead and get a bit of a feel for how they're going to operate in Age of Sigmar. I think this game's going to be super popular, and a lot of people are going to want to pick up Spearheads just solely to play Spearhead as well. That's another great option. But again, like I say, for the full game, it does give you a flavour, and it means that you can play like a fully fledged game with just that Spearhead box, which is great. Stormcast also get Indrasta's Spearhead, so that is based on the previous Dominion box. I believe that is available to buy now, and again you get completely different units than's in the Skaventide box. I've got a feeling, now don't quote me on this, I don't know if it's true or not, but I've got a feeling that as the battle tome kind of rotation goes through this edition, they'll probably mix up some of the Spearheads and put different units in them. They can then put the rules for that Spearhead in the battle tome, and then maybe next year, when the next General's Handbook comes out, they also release a new Spearhead box with 20 new Spearheads and some new missions and cards and stuff. I think that'd be a nice way of kind of allowing you to still have those fixed armies from Spearhead, but also having the flexibility of, okay, well, I'm a Stormcast player, but I've got 2 different Spearheads I can pick from. would make it quite fun. So cities of Sigmar, they are kind of based around, similar to the orders that they had in the previous edition. You can basically bank a battle tactic and make it easier to get. So that's quite a cool little mechanic that they've got. Again, you've got quite a range of different units here as well. You'll notice some of the units have got this little recycle symbol on them. That means that if the first time the unit's destroyed, in a future turn you can bring it back on again outside of 6 inches of the enemy within your territory. So basically it gives you like an extra unit. And again, we've found in our practice games, that means that a really, really good tactic for Spearhead is almost killing a unit that can recycle, but leaving it just hanging on. That reduces the control value of the unit quite a bit, and it means that your opponent's not going to get another one back. But it also means that the players controlling those units can be quite reckless and charge into things and get some early points with them, and it encourages them to do that rather than being a bit tanky. So yeah, that's cool stuff. We see with the Lumineth as well, stuff that again we're going to see with the main kind of faction packs, that once per phase they can lean into a different facet of war and get some different abilities. Again, you really get a flavour for how the armies operate for most of these in like the core game. Profiles are very, very similar to how they operate in match play Age of Sigmar, and even down to the Daughters of Cain have got the blood rights abilities and all that. There are some things tweaked in order to make them work better in Spearhead. You don't get like the keywords for command in here, so you've not got banners giving you extra control. You've not got champions with extra attacks. That is a bit more simplified, but again, that keeps it fast-paced and you know, really, really quite fun. A lot of these Spearheads, I've got a lot of them with maybe a couple of units missing, so one of the things that I'm wanting to do is build up these Spearhead forces and try and have a bit of a selection so I can play lots of different games. Played with the Sylvaneth, they were very good. They felt like kind of full fat Sylvaneth as well, so they could heal up units if they're near terrain. They can strike and fade, teleporting around at the end of the turn. They felt very, very much like the Sylvaneth. The Branch Witch, for example, can bring models back. And you've got a big monster stomping around as well. Obviously, some of the factions don't have something big like that, but the fact that the Spearheads are so varied is going to lead to some fun games. Now, maybe there is an argument that because you've got the same Spearhead and you're not mixing it up, you might get bored using the same models. But in our games that we found, because you've got the different cards being drawn each turn, the different twists, you can tailor your army from the abilities and the enhancements. It does keep things fresh, and again, with it only being 45 minutes to an hour to play as well, it's definitely something that you could play in a lunch break, or you know, if you've got a quick hour after work. One of the things that we struggle with as we get older, we start running out of time. It gets harder to be able to play, you know, a full 2,000 point game of Age of Sigmar. As much as we'd love to have a massive like 4-player 4,000 points battle that takes all weekend, when people have got, you know, jobs and houses and kids, it gets a little bit hard to do that. So for kind of returning veteran players as well, I think Spearhead's going to be really, really good fun. You still get the kind of full Age of Sigmar experience. You've still got that tactical back and forth, and you know, lots of shenanigans that you can do once you've mastered how the different factions operate. But you know, the board fits quite nicely onto a coffee table, so you can even play it sat on the sofa with a few drinks. Does make it a lot more accessible than, you know, Age of Sigmar's ever been, really. Where Combat Patrol to me just felt like, you know, 40k for youngsters. This doesn't. While obviously it is a great way of getting into the game and learning how to play it, and it's built on the same mechanics, so you know, once you know how to play this, it's easy to progress to match play. But this being a kind of a nice introduction doesn't take away from the tactical nuances and the fun and the mechanics and how it works. You can really tell a lot of kind of like love and attention has gone into this game, which is brilliant. You know, it's not one of my worries going into this was that it was going to be a throwaway game that I personally probably wouldn't play. And actually, it's one of the things that's excited me the most about 4th edition. Yeah, 4th edition match play is amazing, and Path to Glory is great, and I'm going to have loads of games of them. But I've got a feeling that when I've got, like, you know, a free hour to be able to just roll some dice and have a fun game, this is something I'll be able to do without having to set up, you know, a massive board, build army lists, get everyone together, you know, have a few hours dedicated to be able to do it. This is something you could just rock up, you know, on a games night, have a couple of boards set up on each table, on dining room tables, and just get a few games on at the go. Slaanesh are one of the ones that aren't quite like the full Age of Sigmar army. Interestingly, their mechanic is more like the 3rd edition mechanics, where in 4th edition, as we'll see next week when we start talking about the faction packs, their battle traits have changed quite a bit. But yeah, their Spearhead is very similar to how they used to operate, which is interesting. I don't know if that's something that's changed maybe as the development of them's gone on, or maybe that was just a conscious effort to keep the two separate. A lot of the other factions, a lot of their mechanics and abilities do follow kind of how they work in full Age of Sigmar. So the Head Knights of Slaanesh seem a bit of an outlier for that. But yeah, all the factions are represented apart from the Beasts of Chaos. I know a lot of people will be disappointed by that. I don't know off the top of my head, so don't quote me on it, but there may be a PDF for using them in Spearhead in the short term. Off the top of my head they don't, but you never know. You know, they did mention on Warhammer Community that the Uruks are going to get their own Spearhead as well. And this is where I reckon we'll probably see new Spearhead boxes released over the course of the edition. You know, this book covers 2 realms. Maybe they'll release something a year on with another 2 realms, and then collate all of the new Spearhead forces into a new book. In White Dwarf, we've seen some quite cool alternate combat patrols, so there is the potential there that they release new Spearheads based on, you know, army sets and launch boxes, and there's quite a lot of stuff they can do to keep the roster of Spearheads kind of interesting and varied without discontinuing them, because, you know, this book's always going to exist, so you can always pick up the individual kits to make up those Spearhead forces, but that doesn't stop them from creating new Spearhead forces with different units in. And that means that as Spearhead grows, while you might not be an Age of Sigmar army collector, you might be a Spearhead collector, and you just pick up the few Spearheads that appeals to you. And I think that's where they've kind of struck gold with this, because there is, let's face it, there's a fairly big barrier to entry for games of Age of Sigmar. You know, you're talking a couple of £100 really for an army, and then, you know, list building and all the kind of knowledge that goes with that. Where this, you can pick up any of these boxes, and in this book you've got the rules for everything that you'd need. So yeah, it really does appeal. It is great fun as well. We've played a couple of games of this now, and they are super fast paced. Our first kind of game after we'd got the demo box took 45 minutes, so as you get faster, I'm sure that you'll pick it up. Teaching this to somebody who had never played it before, the game took about an hour. It might take a bit longer if they've never played Age of Sigmar at all, but you're still talking fairly quick games, and experienced players are going to rattle through the turns, because there's not so much analysis on what units to use, because you've only got a handful each, and you've got a couple of those battle tactics in front of you. You'll quickly kind of like work out what you want to do that turn. What's also cool in here as well, they've reprinted the entire core rules as well, so you don't have to lug around the big kind of hardback Age of Sigmar rulebook. It is all in here as well, and this is exactly the same content as in that big book that's in the Skaventide box. The only thing this doesn't contain is all the advanced rules, so it is just the basic core rules that you get in here. But that's great if you want to look up anything or kind of like just play Spearhead. I suspect that once Skaventide sold out, I've got a feeling they'll sell this, the boards and the cards, as like a self-contained thing that you can pick up. Again, don't quote me on that, but I suspect that's how they're going to market it, as a distinct way of playing from the General's Handbook, which obviously comes with all the core and the advanced rules. It all fits quite neatly together. Like with the other book as well, you get a really nice glossary in the back of it, so if you do need to look up any kind of rules queries, you can do that, and there's a really nice kind of reference as well. In just 2 pages, shows all of the kind of game sequence, what terrain does, how the recycling of units works, and then all those core game abilities as well were all listed there, along with the universal weapon ability. So that's really nice. You can just have that folded out. I hope they do some kind of like handouts for this. I'd like to see some cards that you can just have on the table, but you know, that's handy in the back of the book to be able to do that. So yeah, that's a look at Spearhead. We're really excited for this. I think personally this is going to be super popular. Some people who maybe not interested in collecting a full Age of Sigmar army, I've got a feeling this might turn their heads. If you can pick up a Spearhead box for, you know, 75 quid from a third party, that's not a massive outlay if you want to start dabbling into Age of Sigmar, especially if this gets quite a tournament following too. Yes, it's pre-constructed lists, but the kind of the cool thing about that is then it comes down to the players and their abilities, not the army list. You know, you've not lost your game at the list writing step because you've both got the same list. So it's down to the abilities of the player. So from a tournament standpoint, that's quite interesting because you've still got some ability to tailor there. You've still got the different enhancements that you can pick, and the control of, if you're the defender, you can pick which side of the board you're on and which deployment kind of zone that you have. I think that's going to make for some quite fun kind of tactical play. But yeah, we're hoping to have some Spearhead videos up on the site as well. They're nice quick games, so we should be able to rattle through those into some videos. We'll be able to show a range of different factions too, which is cool, so stay tuned for the site for that. If you're interested in match play, we do have a match play game using the contents of the Skaventide box up on the website too, so make sure to check that out. And like I say, we've got a host of content up on the site covering both the core rules and the unboxing of the Skaventide box as well. If you stay tuned to the website and YouTube as well, coming later in the week, we're going to start looking at some of the faction stuff in the General's Handbook and lots of cool stuff on the horizon, so stay tuned for that. If you have enjoyed this, why not give us a follow, like the video, and comment on what Spearhead that you're going to be picking up. And if you would like to support the site, we do have an affiliate link to Element Games. If you buy anything from that, we get a bit of a kickback, which helps going towards running the site. As ever, massive thanks to Gamesworks for sending us this over. We're really, really excited to play some more 4th editions, so yeah, stay tuned, there'll be lots on the way. But until next time, have a great week.